There's a viral phenomenon happening right now before our digital eyes. A woman crying uncontrollably in her parked car because she had to take her sick child to the doctor alone. Another sobbing uncontrollably because her salary doesn't cover the month's groceries and daycare at the same time. A third having a complete nervous breakdown because her apartment needs urgent repairs and she doesn't know who to turn to or how to solve the technical problem. These aren't rare or isolated accounts anymore. They've become the omnipresent soundtrack of modern femininity on social media. What we're witnessing isn't just sadness or financial hardship. It's the sound of a head-on collision between the fantasy of independence and the concrete wall of reality. The modern woman is discovering something brutal and inflexible. Real life doesn't care about her empowerment narrative. Real life doesn't negotiate with her feelings, and the physics of the world doesn't bend to her need for validation. Let me explain with surgical precision why so many women today completely crumble when confronted with basic adult responsibilities. The pattern is repetitive, almost algorithmic. She leaves a stable situation convinced that life will be easier, better, and more fun without the burden. Perhaps she'll divorce a decent man because she's not happy enough at that moment. Perhaps she'll have children with men who don't commit because she believed she didn't need a man for anything. Perhaps she'll choose a life of parties and travel instead of building something solid and lasting. Then reality hits, and suddenly she's making TikTok videos about how unbearably difficult everything is. I watched this happen to someone I know personally. She left her husband, a good man with a stable job and an involved father, because she felt trapped and wanted to find herself. 6 months later, she's posting daily videos about chronic exhaustion. The car needs repairs, and she doesn't know how to deal with mechanics. Her son has a high fever at 2 in the morning, and she's alone. The bills pile up in a heap of anxiety, and no one is coming to help. That freedom she so ardently desired now feels a lot like drowning in the open sea. The real-world responsibilities that hit hardest are the ones that seem trivial when someone else is handling them. Grocery shopping with 3 small children while one is having a tantrum. Moving heavy furniture when you need to move apartments. Dealing with landlords, plumbers, contractors who don't take you seriously. Being sick with a high fever but still having to function fully because no one else will take your place. These aren't extraordinary or heroic challenges. They're just an ordinary Tuesday in adult life, but without support. That ordinary Tuesday becomes an impossible mountain to climb. The burden of independence is something no one talks about honestly. You want to be independent? Great. That means when you have a 40-degree fever, you still have to make the kids lunch. When you're emotionally devastated from a bad day at work, no one's there to take over the bedtime routine. When you're exhausted from work, you still have to cook, clean, help with homework, and somehow maintain your sanity. Independence isn't freedom, as they sold it to you. It's carrying everything alone. A client told me about his ex-wife's reality check. She left him for independence, moved with the children thinking she would thrive. 3 months later, she calls him crying. The basement flooded. She doesn't know how to shut off the water supply. The children are scared. She's having a panic attack. He had, driving there at midnight to fix the leak while she sobbed about how hard everything is. The same woman who said she didn't need him. Many single mothers struggle specifically because they chose freedom over discipline, chose the fun guy over the stable guy, chose momentary excitement over long-term security. They wanted the Instagram life, not real life. Now they're alone, with children of men who don't commit, don't help, don't answer the phone. But somehow, in modern mental gymnastics, everyone is to blame but them. The modern culture of emotional display is insane. Every struggle becomes a performance. Can't pay the rent? Make a video crying. The child is misbehaving? Film your breakdown. Overwhelmed by basic adult life. Time for a tearful post about how hard women's lives are. They've learned that public display of emotion generates attention, sympathy, maybe even money via donations, but it doesn't solve the real problems. I saw a video yesterday of a woman sobbing because she had to put her children in daycare to work, but daycare costs almost what she earns. It's a valid problem, sure, but you know who else faces this? Single parents. They deal with it without the camera rolling. They work nights, find family help, make quiet arrangements. No crying videos, no online fundraisers, just pragmatic solutions. These women drastically underestimate how much structure men provided in traditional families. I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about structure, discipline for the children, consistency in rules, the ability to be the necessary villain when the situation demands it. Without this, their homes become chaos. Children running wild because the mother can't set limits. No bedtime because she's too tired to fight. No consequences because she needs them to like her. A teacher friend tells me the pattern is obvious in schools. Children from single mother homes, especially where the father isn't involved, appear tired, hungry, unprepared, not because the mother doesn't care, but because she's overwhelmed. She can't maintain the structure alone. The children suffer academically, socially, emotionally, but pointing this out is apparently shaming single mothers. These same women want the commitment of the masculine style without giving the loyalty of the feminine style. They want some man to appear and be a father figure, fix things, provide stability, but they don't want to commit to him. As wives, they want the benefits of a husband without the duties of a wife. They want male investment without female reciprocity, and then they are shocked when men don't sign up for this disadvantageous arrangement. Modern emotional hypersensitivity makes everything worse. Modern women have been taught that their feelings are valid, important, and should be honored above all else. So every frustration becomes a crisis. Every challenge becomes a trauma. Every normal pressure of life becomes unbearable suffering. They are so focused on how they feel that they can't focus on what needs to be done. I watched a woman have a complete breakdown in a tire shop because they couldn't fix her flat tire immediately. Crying, calling people, posting about it online. An hour of drama for a 2-hour wait. A man in the same situation would grab a coffee and answer a few emails. The emotional energy she wasted could have solved 3 other problems. Bad personal habits make everything exponentially more difficult. Without a budget, money is always a crisis. Without discipline, health becomes a problem. Without routine, every day is chaos. Without planning, everything is an emergency. They live in reaction mode, constantly putting out fires they themselves started through negligence. A woman I know constantly complains of being broke. I saw her spend $200 on nails and hair, $100 on food delivery in a week, buying clothes she doesn't need. Then the rent is due, and it's a crisis. She needs help. She's a victim of the economy. Being a single mother is so hard. No, you're bad with money and expect others to compensate for your irresponsibility. The allergy to responsibility is incredible. Everything is someone else's fault. The ex who doesn't help, the one she pushed away, the job that doesn't pay enough, the one she chose, the family that won't be a nanny, the one she alienated, the government that no longer provides support. the one that already subsidizes her life. Everyone is failing her, except the only person who could fix it, herself. The children absolutely pay the price for these choices. They are dealing with stressed, overwhelmed, and emotionally unstable mothers. They are experiencing inconsistent discipline, rotating male figures, financial instability. They are growing up in chaos and being told that this is normal. Boys without male guidance. Girls learning that this is what femininity looks like. I see these children in my practice, anxious, confused, parentified at a very young age. The 8-year-old who has to be the mother's emotional support. The 10-year-old who is basically raising her younger siblings. The teenager who is more mature than her mother. They are robbed of their childhood because the mother cannot cope with adulthood. The abandonment of stable families is epidemic. Women are abandoning functional marriages at unprecedented rates, not because of abuse, not because of neglect, but because of feelings. I'm not happy. I need to find myself. I deserve better. They are trading stability for a fantasy and discovering that fantasy doesn't pay bills or raise children. The statistics are damning. 70% of divorces are initiated by women in couples with higher education. 90% are not leaving bad situations. They are leaving good situations that no longer seem exciting. Trading a functional family for the freedom of Instagram and then wondering why it all falls apart. Meanwhile, men facing similar struggles receive zero sympathy. Single father working 2 jobs to pay child support and rent. Nobody cares. Man struggling to see his children while paying for their entire lifestyle. Silence. Guy managing everything alone after his wife left. He must be a man. The same society that this double standard is breathtaking. Women struggling, men struggling, and women struggling. A woman posts about being overwhelmed and receives thousands of supportive comments, offers of help, maybe even a crowdfunding campaign. A man posts the same thing and says he's weak, pathetic, and needs to mind his own business. We've created a culture where women's struggle is valued and men's struggle is shameful. These modern women want the benefits of a man without the commitment. They want someone to fix the car, kill spiders, carry heavy things, pay for things, but don't you dare expect dinner, loyalty, or respect in return. They want a servant, not a partner. So they wonder why quality men aren't interested. I know a woman who regularly calls her ex-husband asking for help fixing the sink, mowing the lawn, picking up the kids when she's overwhelmed. But when he suggested getting back together, she said, "I need my independence." She literally wants him to do husbandly duties while she dates other men. The entitlement is astounding. Modern society rewards emotional expression over responsibility. A woman crying on social media receives sympathy, support, and resources. A woman quietly minding her own business receives nothing. So guess which behavior is reinforced? Public meltdowns become a strategy. It's not a genuine emotion. The preparedness gap is real. Boys are raised knowing they'll have to deal with things. They learn to fix, build, solve, and endure. Girls are raised being told they are perfect as they are. They aren't taught resilience, problem solving, or emotional regulation. So real life arrives, and they are completely unprepared. A perfect example: car problems. A man's car breaks down. He knows the basics. Check the battery, call a tow truck, take it to a garage, arrange alternative transportation. A woman's car breaks down. It's often complete panic, crying, calling everyone, posting about it, but no real problem solving because nobody taught her how emotional fragility makes them incapable of handling basic criticism or feedback. Tell a modern woman she needs to improve something, and she crumbles. It's mean, abusive, toxic. They can't differentiate between helpful feedback and a personal attack, so they never improve, never grow, never develop resilience. I had an employee once who cried every time I gave her constructive feedback, not harsh criticism, basic job training. This report needs more details. I'd send her to the bathroom in tears. Eventually, I stopped giving her feedback. Her performance never improved. She eventually left, fired, and blamed everyone but herself. Unrealistic expectations about life set them up for failure. They think being an adult should be easy, fun, and rewarding all the time, when it's really hard work, sacrifice, and routine. They can't cope. They're looking for the Instagram version of adulthood, not the real thing. Social media makes it worse. They see other women's highlights and think that's normal. Why isn't my life so easy? Why don't I look so happy? Why is everything so hard for me? They don't realize everyone is struggling. Some people just don't show it. The pattern of collapse is predictable. First comes the freedom phase. I don't need anyone. Then the reality phase. This is harder than expected. Then the panic phase. I can't do this alone. Then the victim phase. Why won't anyone help me? Finally, the blame phase. This is everyone's fault but mine. The modern woman's inability to cope with real life isn't about ability. It's about preparation and expectation. They could handle it if they were taught, if they expected it to be difficult, if they developed discipline and resilience. But they weren't. They don't. And they haven't. Here's what: it's truly tragic. Some of these women had good situations. They threw away decent men who loved them, stable homes, support systems, but they wanted more, better, different. They bought into the lie of, "You deserve it all," and ended up with nothing but struggle and regret. A client's ex-wife is a perfect example. She had everything: a nice house, a loving husband, healthy children. She didn't need to work. She left because she wasn't fulfilled. Now she's in a 2-bedroom apartment working in retail. The children are struggling. She constantly posts about how hard single motherhood is. She had it all and threw it away for a feeling. The impact on the male structure in families cannot be overstated. When the father isn't there, everything changes. The mother becomes a friend instead of a father. Discipline becomes negotiation. Rules become suggestions. The natural authority that fathers bring, not through force but through presence, disappears, and the house descends into emotional chaos. I've watched this transformation happen. Strong and capable women who maintained perfect homes while married suddenly can't maintain basic order on their own, not because they've become less capable, but because they've lost the structural support that made everything so possible. It's like removing a wall from a house and wondering why. The roof is giving way to the expectation of commitment from the masculine style without reciprocity. It's delusional. Men are waking up to this systemic scam and realizing that the proposed transaction is fundamentally fraudulent. Children who witness this theater of maladjustment learn the most dangerous lessons possible. Boys learn that men are disposable, that their role is to serve without expecting reciprocity, and that masculinity is a utility to be exploited to exhaustion. Girls learn that struggle and drama are valuable bargaining chips, that responsibility is optional, and that emotions justify any destructive behavior. We are creating a generation programmed for perpetual dysfunction. The male response to this is increasingly silent distancing. Why commit to someone who doesn't reciprocate? Why invest resources and time in someone who will leave when things get even slightly difficult? Why build a castle with someone who can't even carry a brick. Men are leaving the market, and honestly, who can blame them? Competent women who can actually handle life suffer from this too. They are statistically grouped with those who can't. Men approach them with suspicion, waiting for collapse, waiting for drama, waiting for an inability to cope. The pressure on functional women is evident in the reputation of dysfunctional women. I know several genuinely capable women who can't find partners because men are wary. They swim in a dating pool poisoned by those who cry on TikTok about how hard adult life is. The real world doesn't pause for your emotional breakdown. The bills keep piling up. The kids still need food. Work keeps waiting for you to show up. The car still needs gas. The house still needs cleaning. Reality is relentless and utterly indifferent to your feelings or your victim narrative. The solution begins with a brutally honest conversation about reality. Life is hard. Independence comes at a very high cost. Choices have permanent consequences. Feelings don't excuse failures. Structure matters. Discipline is the only salvation, and partnership requires reciprocity. These aren't controversial statements in human history, but they are facts that modern culture refuses to acknowledge. Preparation needs to change radically. Girls need to learn practical skills, emotional regulation, and mechanical and financial problem solving. They need to understand that life won't coddle their feelings. They need to develop resilience, responsibility, and realistic expectations. Otherwise, we're just setting them up for the same breakdown. What we see today for men who are listening is that they should recognize the patterns early. If she can't handle minor inconveniences without falling apart, she won't handle bigger challenges. If she blames everyone else for her problems, she'll eventually blame you too. If she wants support without reciprocity, you're not a partner, you're infrastructure. The harsh reality is that modern life demands competence, resilience, and responsibility. Those who possess these qualities thrive. Those who don't collapse. And no amount of crying on social media, blaming the patriarchy, or demanding support will change this fundamental equation. Women who discover this transform their lives. They stop waiting for rescue and start solving problems. They stop broadcasting the struggle and start building strength. They stop blaming others and start taking responsibility. And suddenly, mysteriously, their lives improve. I've seen it happen. Women who hit rock bottom realized the victim strategy wasn't working and changed. They developed discipline, took responsibility, built resilience. Their children stabilized. Their finances improved. Their stress decreased. Not because life got easier, but because they got stronger. But most won't do this. They are too invested in the victim narrative, too comfortable with cheap sympathy, and too afraid of real responsibility. So they will continue crying on social media, continue blaming everyone else, continue wondering why life is so hard while refusing to see the obvious answer. The generational damage this causes is immense. Boys growing up without fathers, seeing their mothers collapse under normal pressure. Girls growing up thinking this is normal, that adult life is impossible, that responsibility is optional. We are creating a society of perpetual children who cannot cope with basic reality. The contrast with previous generations is stark. Our grandmothers raised 6 children without dishwashers, dealt with real hardships of war and scarcity without public complaint, dealt with what life threw at them with stoicism. The modern woman cannot cope with a child and an office job with all the modern conveniences. The difference is not biological capacity, it is psychological conditioning. The validation cycle of social media makes everything worse. Post about the struggle. Gain sympathy. Post about the silent success. Be ignored. The incentive structure rewards the broadcasting of failure and punishes discreet success. So guess which behavior increases the excuse of physical exhaustion is particularly rich. I'm so tired of doing everything alone. Your grandmother did twice as much with none of the technology. Washing machines, dishwashers, microwaves, online shopping, grocery delivery. You have every imaginable convenience. You're not physically exhausted. You're emotionally undisciplined. The daily responsibilities that break you are laughably basic. Packing lunchboxes, dropping kids off at school, working, picking up kids, making dinner, bedtime. This is standard adult life that billions of people manage daily without public meltdowns. But for the modern woman conditioned to fragility, this is apparently equivalent to climbing Everest without oxygen. Men need to understand this dynamic to protect themselves. The woman who cries about how hard life is won't magically become competent in a relationship. The one who can't handle basic adult life won't suddenly develop skills just because you're there. You can't save someone from their own refusal to grow up. Competent women need to distance themselves from incompetent ones. Stop making excuses for them. Stop validating their victim narratives. Start pointing out the difference between genuine difficulty and self-created drama, because your silence makes you complicit in the degradation of women's capabilities. Children deserve better than mothers who can't handle basic life. They deserve stability, structure, competent care, not TikTok meltdowns and emotional chaos, not victim narratives and shirking responsibility, not watching their mothers crumble under normal adult pressure. The hard truth is that modern women can't handle real life because they weren't prepared for it. They don't expect it to be difficult and don't accept that the responsibility is theirs. They're waiting for life to get easier instead of getting stronger. They're broadcasting the struggle instead of building resilience. They're blaming everyone else instead of taking responsibility. The emotional stress they claim is overwhelming is largely self-created. They manufacture drama, seek conflict, create chaos, and then complain about the stress. A peaceful life is available to anyone who chooses it, but peace doesn't generate sympathy or attention on social media, so they choose chaos and blame the world. The solution exists, but it requires admitting uncomfortable truths, that traditional structures had value, that discipline matters, that responsibility is not optional, that feelings don't excuse failure, that independence has a cost, that partnership requires reciprocity. Life owes them nothing. Until modern women accept these realities, they will continue to collapse under the normal pressures of life, continue to cry on social media about basic challenges, continue to wonder why everything is so difficult while refusing to develop the skills to cope. Men who understand this can make better choices. Form partnerships with competent women who deal with reality. Avoid those who transmit dysfunction. Recognize that you cannot save someone from their own refusal to grow. Protect yourself from becoming just another resource for someone who will not reciprocate. The future belongs to those who can cope with reality, those who develop competence, resilience, and responsibility, who solve problems instead of transmitting them, who take responsibility instead of assigning blame, who build strength instead of seeking sympathy. The modern woman's inability to cope with real life is no mystery. It is the predictable result of unrealistic expectations, absent responsibility, and rewarded dysfunction. The question is not why they can't cope. It's why we pretend to be surprised when they can't. Every crying video, every victim post, every blame narrative is evidence of the same thing. A generation that wasn't prepared for adult reality and refuses to adapt to it. They are drowning in 6 inches of water while refusing to stand up. The competent, the resilient, the responsible, they are out there, but they are increasingly rare in a culture that rewards dysfunction and punishes ability, that celebrates struggle and ignores success, that validates feelings and discards facts. Men are adjusting their expectations according to the fantasy of the capable partner. The capable woman is dying, replaced by the recognition of widespread incompetence. The intelligent are filtering more rigorously, demanding proof of ability, refusing to subsidize dysfunction. The cycle continues until something forces change, or reality becomes undeniable, or society collapses under the weight of incompetence, or women develop resilience or are replaced by those who possess it. Natural selection doesn't care about their feelings. The truth that modern women can't cope with isn't that life is difficult. It's that they are weak, not physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. They were protected from the consequences, shielded from difficulty, validated in dysfunction. Now reality arrives, and they shatter like glass. But admitting this would require the responsibility they've spent their lives avoiding. So they'll continue crying on social media, continue blaming everyone else, continue wondering why life is so hard, while those who accept reality develop strength and take responsibility, building the lives they claim to want. I want to hear from you. What examples have you seen of this collapse? What happens when the modern woman faces real challenges? Have you ever seen someone throw away stability for freedom only to drown in responsibility? Share your observations in the comments. Let's document this reality that everyone sees, but that no one should discuss. If this content touched you, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more revelations.